Hello everyone, this is Saraswathi. So now we are going to explain the OSI reference layers in this PPT. So the contents of this PPT includes the introduction, what is a OSI reference model, and types of layers. So each layer, physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, application layer, and the last one is the conclusion. These topics we are going to explain in this PPT. Okay. So the first topic is what is OSI. So and what it is related to. So the first OSI full form of OSI is Open Systems Interconnection. Open Systems Interconnection. So here an open system is a set of protocol that allows any two different systems to communicate regardless of their underlying architectures. So that is the main purpose of this OSI model. So generally the OSI system is a set of protocol, it is a software, okay. So that allows any two different systems to communicate regardless of their underlying architectures. So when we are connecting our systems in a network, each system will use different architectures. So to synchronize these different architectures, we are using some protocol. That protocol is called the OSI, okay. So it was designed by ISO. ISO full form is International Organization for Standardization. So the OSI reference model is designed by ISO. So the full form of ISO means International Organization for Standardization. So it is developed in late 1970s. Okay, so mainly it has 7-layer model. Mainly it has 7 layers in this model. So it is a theoretical model designed to show how a protocol stack should be implemented. So this model is mainly designed to show how a protocol stack should be implemented. One by one we have to discuss about that one. Okay. So the OSI reference model has mainly 7 layers. So each one we discussed one by one. So first layer is the physical layer, second is the data link layer, third network layer, fourth transport layer, fifth session layer, sixth presentation layer, and seventh application layer. These layers are in order form only. So after physical layer we have to mention about the data link, after that network, after that transport, after that session, presentation, application. Like that we have to mention in order format only. Okay. So here the types of layers in order form: physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. So first physical layer we have to discuss about this one. The physical layer is responsible for transmitting individual bits from one node to next. So the physical layer name itself represents the physical operations. What we are using the physical cables, like that we are using in the communication systems or in the network. Okay, so the main responsibility is to transmitting individual bits from one node to the next node. That is the physical layer responsibility, main responsibility. So the functions of physical layer includes physical characteristics of interfaces and media. What media we are using while we are connecting our system in the network. So different medias we are using, wireless media and wired media, like that. So wireless media means we are using infrared or rays, like that. So in physical media we are using cables. So representation of bit, what representation of bit pattern we are using in this architecture or in our system. So and the data rate, how many bits we are sending per a second, that represents the data rate. So we are mentioning about the data rate in the physical layer. Synchronization of bits, how to synchronize the bits while we are transmitting the data. So that and all managed by the physical layer. Okay, those are the main functions of the physical layer. So, when we are transmitting our data using the physical layer, so the data is converted into bit format. So, means the data is transmitted in the electrical signal format only. So, the electrical signals are in the zeros and ones format or in the binary format. So, in the physical layer the data is converted into bit format, and using that physical transmission media it will send to the receiver machine. Okay, so at the receiver machine physical layer takes the bits from the physical medium and convert it into actual data and send it into the data link layer, that is the upper layer of the physical layer. Okay, next comes to the data link layer. So, the data link layer is responsible for transmitting frames from one node to the next node. So, the main responsibility of the data link layer is transmitting the frame from one node to the next node, that is the main responsibility, and the functions are also there. So, first function is framing, second one is physical addressing, and third one is flow control, fourth one is error control, and fifth one is access control. These are all the functions that is done by the data link layer. So, the main responsibility is transmitting the frame from one node to the next node. So, node means a computer system or anything we are mentioning as a node here. Okay, so, the main functions of data link layer is framing. So, it will take the data from the network layer, that is the upper layer of the data link layer, and it is framed it in some format. Okay. So, and we have to add some physical address of the nodes to the frame. Okay. So, that is the function of the data link layer. Flow control means when we are sending the information on the network, different systems are using different architectures. So, for example, sender machine is very faster than the receiver machine. So, the sender machine will send the data fastly, but the receiver machine uses the slow machine. So, here overflow will occur in the receiver machine. So, that flow control is controlled by the or managed by the data link layer. So, error control means when we are transmitting the data in the network, some errors will occur due to transmission media or some noise in the media. So, like that some errors are occurred. So, errors means the data will be lost or duplicated, like that the errors will be occurred. So, the error control, so which error is occurred. So, when we have to resend the data, that and all managed by the data link layer, and access control also. The link control is mentioned here in the access control. So, these are all the main functions of the data link layer. So, framing means, so we can get the data from the network layer, actual data from the network layer, and divide that into some parts and frame it in some format. So, here in the frame we are using header part, actual data part, and the trailer part. In the header part we are mentioning the physical addresses, some error control bits, like that we are mentioning in the header part. So, actual data means what is the data we are transmitting. So, that is the actual data. In the trailer part we are adding some control information like sequence numbers, like that we are adding some trailer part. That is the full form of the frame. So, mainly three parts are there in the frame. So, first one header part, actual data, and the trailer part. Okay. So, now you have to say what are the parts generally a frame contains. Okay, header part, actual data, and the trailer part. So, these three parts are combined like a frame. So, this framing is done in the data link layer only. Next is the network layer. So, the network layer is responsible for the delivery of packets from the original source to the final destination. So, the network layer main responsibility is to deliver the packets from the original source to the final destination. So, here original source means sender machine, final destination means final receiver machine. So, here the main responsibility of the network layer is to delivery of packets. Delivery of packets means we have to send the information in the packet format. So, that packet format is done in the network layer. So, the functions of network layer is logical addressing and routing. So, to do these responsibility, delivery the packets from the original source to the final destination, these functions the network layer has to do, logical addressing and routing. Okay. So, for each responsibility we will discuss in the later sessions. So, each layer it has one chapter. So, in that chapter we will discuss each layer briefly. So, see in this diagram. So, the above the network layer, transport layer is there, the data in the sender machine, it will get from the transport layer and it is packed in some format, packet format and send it to the data link layer. Okay, actual data is divided into some packets in the network layer. Okay, so and send it to the data link layer. The data link layer will send it to the physical layer and the physical layer is send it to the receiver machine. So, in the receiver machine the data is received in the physical layer and it will send it to the data link layer and next to the network layer. So, like that the data is transmitted from one node to the another node or from one system to the another system in the network. So, next one is the transport layer. In the order after the network layer we are getting the transport layer. So, the transport layer is responsible for delivery of a message from one process to another process, that is the main responsibility. So, actual data is delivered like a messages from one process to another process. Here the transport layer is managed or doing the process to process delivery. Okay. So, what are the functions related to process delivery is port addressing, segmentation and reassembly, connection control, flow control and error control. Okay, these are the main functions of the transport layer. What are they? Port addressing, which port we are using to send our data. So, different ports are there for transmitting different types of data. So, that we will discuss in the later sessions. So, first we have to learn about what are the main functions that is the needed. So, port addressing, segmentation and reassembly, the information is segmented and reassembled in the receiver side, and connection control, flow control and error control. These are the main functions of the transport layer while it is sending the information like a message format. So, see the transport layer is taking the data from the session layer, that is above the transport layer, and divided it into some segments and send it into network layer. So, in the sender machine, in the receiver machine, so it is taking from the network layer, the transport layer is taking the information from the network layer and send it to the session layer, that is the upper layer of the transport layer. Okay. So, that is the main responsibility of the transport layer. And next in the line, session layer. So, the session layer is the network dialog control. So, it establishes and maintains and synchronizes the interaction between communicating systems. So, that is the main responsibility of the session layer. So, what is the responsibility of the session layer means? The main responsibility is the dialog control. Dialog control means I am ready to send the information. That dialog is send it on the network, the sender machine. So, in the receiver machine it is taking the dialog, so and it establishes a connection between the communicating systems, sender machine and the receiver machine. This dialog controller is maintained by the session control, and it establishes, maintains and synchronizes the interaction between communication systems. So, the main function of the session layer is dialog control and synchronization. Dialog control and synchronization. So, here see it is taking the data from the presentation layer in the sender machine. So, the session layer is taking the data from the presentation layer and divide it into sessions, and that sessions of data is transmitted to the transport layer, that is below the session layer. In the receiver machine, it takes from the data from the transport layer and send it to the presentation layer. Next is the presentation layer. So, the presentation layer is concerned with the syntax and semantics of the information exchanged between two systems. So, here syntax and semantics means some rules and regulations, some encryptions, translations, compressions like that done in the presentation layer. So, that is under the functions of presentation layer. The main responsibility of the presentation layer is concerned with the syntax and semantics of the information exchanged between the two systems. So, under this we are having some functionalities that is done by the presentation layer. Those are translation, encryption and compression. Okay. So, these are the main functions of the presentation layer. So, here you see in presentation layer the data is taking from the upper layer of the presentation layer, that is application layer, and here in the presentation layer it is encoded, encrypted and compressed the data and send it to the session layer in the sender machine. In the receiver machine, it is taking the data from the session layer and it is decoded, decrypted and decompressed in the receiver side and send it to the application layer, that is above the presentation layer in the order. Okay. That is the main responsibility of the presentation layer. And the last one is the application layer. So, the application layer enables the user, whether human or software, to access the network. So, it is the main layer. So, it is application layer generally. So, it enables the user, whether human or software, to access the network. So, that is the main responsibility of the application layer. So, it provides user interfaces and support for services. It provides user interfaces. So, so what are the interfaces we will discuss in the functions part. So, and support for the services. These are the main responsibility of the application layer. So, the functions means network virtual terminal, file transfer, access and management and mail services, directory services, like that what we are done in the computer system while we are using the network, that all functions or applications are supported by the application layer. Generally we are using file transfers or mail services or directory services, like that we are using the different applications. So, those applications are supported by the application layer only. So, these are the functions that are supported by the application layer, means network virtual terminal. So, file transfer, access and management, FTAM, and mail services. While we are using or sending the emails, so this mail service is application mail service is used. Okay. So, and next the directory services. So, here see in the application layer, it is the last layer. So, it is not getting any data from the upper layers. So, in the sender machine, in the application layer, we are using different applications, X.50, FTAM, X.400, like that, which application we are using at that moment, that is depending on the user requirements. So, that application is transferred into the data format and send it to the presentation layer in the sender machine. Okay, in the receiver machine, from the presentation layer the data is send it to the application layer. So, the user can access the data whatever he wants using some application. Okay, like that the information is going one by one. So, see the OSI reference model design. So, in the concern of sender and the receiver machines, here system 1, system 2, sender machine and receiver machine. So, here in the sender machine, application process is done from first layer, 7th layer, application layer. So, one by one it is transmitted downwardly to the physical layer. So, here the data transmission is transmitted using the physical cables. So, in the receiver machine system 2, it is transferred from one layer to the 7th layer, first layer to the 7th layer. So, in the application process N, so the user will access the information in the application layer format. Okay. So, like that we are transmitting the data using the OSI reference model layers. So, thank you.